Hi there, these are some notes for Algebra 1. Today I'm going to be talking about properties. I'm going to be looking at slides 7, 10, and 11 of your digital notebook. And we're going to start right off with slide 7. I just want to name these properties for you because, at one point you will be asked to kind of know what property is being represented into different equations. So this equation where I have a 7 plus in parentheses 3 plus 2 equals in parentheses 7 plus 3 plus 2 is the associative property of addition. And I'm just writing the addition sign. The next property, if I have a number times 0, it equals 0. This is the 0 property of multiplication. And I'll write the x for multiplication. When I have a number and I add its opposite, I will always get 0. That is the inverse property of addition. So if I add an opposite, I get 0. In this case, I have 2x, and on the other side, it's x times 2. Remember, there's an invisible multiplication symbol there. This is an example of the commutative property of a multiplication. The next one, any number times 1 equals itself, and that is the identity property of multiplication. In this video, I'm going to see 7 plus 11 plus 6, and looks a little different on the other side. That's the commutative property of addition. So what you're noticing is that, commutative property of addition. Sorry about my spelling there. What you're noticing that addition and multiplication are both commutative. In this case, I have a fraction multiplied by the reciprocal equals 1. That is the inverse property of multiplication. Any number multiplied by its reciprocal will equal 1. In this example, I did make a little mistake. There shouldn't be a parenthesis there. This should look like -3 times 10 times 4 equals -3 times 10 times 4. Sorry about that. My parentheses are around different numbers. It's the associative property of multiplication. So addition and multiplication are associative. 0 plus 19 equals 19. Any number plus itself, plus 0 will equal itself. That is the identity property of addition. So both multiplication and addition have identity properties. In this case, remember, if I have a number right next to parentheses, that really is multiplication, and you can see that I'm grouping them differently, or I'm moving the order. I'm not grouping differently, I'm moving the order. So this is another example of the commutative property of multiplication. In this case, with this next one, I have 6 times 1, 6 equals 1. Remember, when I multiply a whole number by a fraction, I put it over 1. So now you can see that I'm multiplying 1/6 by the reciprocal, and that equals 1. So this is also an example of the inverse property of multiplication. And finally, we talked about this in a lesson video. I can distribute multiplication into addition and subtraction, and that is the distributive property. So lots of properties in algebra that let us simplify numbers and expressions and move them the way we want to. There are a couple more pages. I'm going to just go to slide 10 here. We're just going to talk about these properties of equality. And really what the properties of equality are helping me do is keeping those equations balanced. What you do to one side, you have to do the other. So if I add the same number to each side of an equation, it will remain equal. So if I have 6x minus 3 equals 2, if I add 3 to both sides, the equation will still be equal. That is the addition property of equality. The subtraction property of equality is the same kind of idea. I have 6x plus 3 equals 2. If I subtract the same value from both sides, my equation will still be equal. Unless I make a mistake and then it's not equal. Anyway, multiplication, same idea. If I have m over 2 equals 6, if I multiply both sides by the same number, my equation will still be equal. And the division property of equality, if I have 10x equals 100, if I divide both sides of the equation by the same number, my equation remains equivalent. Last slide is slide 10. These are some properties just to think about. The reflexive property basically is a number is equal to itself. So x is equal to x, y is equal to y, 2 is equal to 2, 1/4 is equal to 1/4, 2.5 is equal to 2.5, -4 is equal to -4. Numbers are equal to themselves. The symmetric says quantities on each side of an equal sign may be switched. Where I really like to do this, if I come up with an answer like 8 equals x, I like to use the symmetric property to write x equals 8. That is the property that allows me to do that. The transitive property is just saying if I have one value, like let's say I say a equals 2. But I also know, because I've said that's B, 2 equals C. Then A equals C. So I just substituted a 2 in for there. So we're not going to use that much this year yet, but it's out there now. And finally, the substitution property, you are going to use that, particularly when you're evaluating expressions. If y equals 3, then 2y equals 2 times 3. You can do that with any expression. For instance, if x equals -5, then 6x equals 6 times -5. So those are the properties I wanted to talk to you about today. Thanks for listening and see you next time.